In the vast darkness between stars, where civilized species built their colonies on gentle worlds with predictable weather and manageable gravity, there existed legends. Whispers of creatures so savage they could survive on planets that would kill most beings in minutes. These mythical Deathworlders were spoken of in hushed tones across the galaxy. Beings who thrived where others perished, who turned catastrophe into opportunity, and who possessed an inexplicable drive to help others even at great personal cost. The Galactic Confederation had dismissed these stories as folklore for centuries. After all, no species could truly evolve on worlds so hostile that survival itself was a daily battle. Such creatures, if they existed, would surely be too primitive, too violent, too alien to ever achieve spaceflight or civilization. But when the impossible happened, when an entire sector faced extinction from an unstoppable force, the Confederation found themselves with nowhere else to turn. In their darkest hour, they broadcast a desperate plea into the unknown regions of space, hoping against hope that someone, anyone, might hear their call for help. They never imagined who would answer. What they discovered would shatter everything they believed about strength, civilization, and what it truly meant to be human. For when Deathworlders finally emerged from the shadows of space, they brought with them something far more terrifying than any weapon: compassion backed by an unbreakable will to survive. This is the story of first contact with Earth and why the galaxy would never be the same again. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council had been called at an unprecedented hour. Ambassador Zura, 9 of the Korean Republic, adjusted her breathing apparatus nervously as she floated through the corridors of the massive space station that served as the political heart of their civilization. Her tentacles trembled with anxiety as she considered what had brought them all here. The threat had appeared without warning in the Outer Rim territories. At first, it had seemed like nothing more than an unusual spatial anomaly, a dark cloud drifting between star systems. The initial reports from the scientific vessels had been routine, even boring. Just another cosmic phenomenon to catalog and study from a safe distance. But then, the cloud had reached the agricultural world of Nexus 7, home to 12 million peaceful Threxian farmers. Within 6 hours, every living thing on the planet's surface had been reduced to gray dust. The cloud had somehow stripped away the molecular bonds that held organic matter together, leaving behind only barren rock and metal structures standing like monuments to the dead. Zara, 9, entered the council chamber, where representatives from 47 different species had already gathered. The air recycling systems worked overtime to accommodate the various atmospheric requirements, creating a symphony of hisses and hums that normally provided comfort. Today, the sounds only amplified her dread. Council Prime Vex Kai, a tall crystalline being whose body refracted light into beautiful rainbow patterns, called for order. His voice resonated through the chamber's translation matrix, ensuring every species could understand despite their vastly different communication methods. Fellow delegates, Vex Kai began, we face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. The entity we have designated as the molecular dissolution anomaly has now consumed 17 worlds across 4 star systems. Our best scientists estimate it will reach the Confederation's core worlds within 43 standard days. A ripple of distress moved through the assembled beings. The Hirati delegation, a group of insectoid creatures known for their logical approach to problems, clicked their mandibles in agitation. The gaseous Numai representatives flickered with rapid color changes that indicated extreme concern. Director Yixnu of the Confederation's Science Division stepped forward, her purple skin pulsing with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated serious thought among her people. We have attempted every conventional defense. Energy shields are ineffective. The anomaly passes through them as if they don't exist. Kinetic weapons simply dissolve upon contact. Even our most powerful antimatter charges had no measurable impact. What about evacuation? asked Representative Tormel from the Aquatic Cetacean Collective, his words bubbling through the water-filled communication sphere that allowed him to participate. We could relocate the populations of threatened worlds. Impossible, reprit Fleet Admiral Cantalard. We lack the transport capacity to evacuate even a single major population center before the anomaly arrives. Our ships are designed for exploration and trade, not mass exodus. We would save perhaps 1% of those at risk. The chamber fell silent except for the mechanical breathing aids and atmospheric processors. Zara, 9 watched as her fellow delegates grappled with the magnitude of their helplessness. The Galactic Confederation had been built on principles of peaceful cooperation, scientific advancement, and careful expansion into space. They had eliminated war, poverty, and disease through careful planning and mutual support. But they had also, she realized, eliminated the harsh experiences that might have prepared them for something like this. There must be someone, whispered Delegate Fyrin from the Epsilon colonies. Somewhere in the galaxy, there must be a species that has faced something similar. Some civilization that has developed weapons or technologies we haven't considered. Director Yixnu's skin patterns shifted to indicate regret. We have contacted every known spacefaring species within our communication range. The few that responded confirmed they have no solutions to offer. Most are evacuating their border territories and preparing to flee deeper into unexplored space. Council Prime Vexguy's crystalline form dimmed, a sign of deep contemplation among his kind. There are stories. Legends speak of species that evolved on worlds so harsh that survival itself required capabilities we cannot comprehend. Beings that thrived in conditions that would destroy us within moments. They call them Deathworlders. A nervous flutter moved through the chamber. Many species had heard similar tales, stories of creatures that lived on planets with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperature variations, and constant natural disasters. But these were considered myths, cautionary tales told to younglings about the dangers of venturing too far from safe, regulated worlds. Surely you don't suggest we seek out fictional beings, protested Ambassador Kethvar from the Merchant Guild. We need real solutions, not folklore. What other options do we have? Vexguy's form flared brighter. Our conventional approaches have failed completely. If there is even the smallest chance that such beings exist, don't we owe it to our citizens to try? The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued that broadcasting distress calls into unknown regions of space was dangerous. They might attract something worse than the anomaly they already faced. Others insisted that any risks were preferable to certain extinction. Finally, after much discussion, they reached a consensus born of desperation rather than confidence. The Confederation would broadcast a general distress call on all known frequencies, transmitting their situation and plea for help toward the unexplored regions where such mythical Deathworlders might exist. The message was simple but heartbreaking. This is the Galactic Confederation calling to any who can hear this transmission. Our civilization faces imminent extinction from an unknown force. We have exhausted all conventional solutions. If any beings exist who have faced similar threats or possess knowledge we lack, we humbly request your assistance. We offer all our scientific knowledge, our art, our history, everything we are in exchange for any help you might provide. Please, if you can hear this, we are running out of time. 3 days after the transmission began, long-range sensors detected something impossible, a response signal coming from a small yellow star in an unexplored arm of the galaxy. The signal was strong, clear, and unlike anything in their databases. Admiral Quinn Taylor rushed to the communications center, her heart racing with hope and terror. "What are they saying?" she asked the communications officer. The young Korean operator looked up with wide eyes. "Admiral, they're not just responding to our distress call. They're asking for our exact coordinates and the technical specifications of the threat. They want to know how many ships we have and what our evacuation capacity is. And, Admiral," the operator paused, clearly struggling with what to say next. They're asking how quickly they can reach us. They want to come here. Admiral Quinn Taylor felt her breathing apparatus work harder as shock and disbelief washed over her. They want to help us directly? That's what the transmission indicates. They call themselves humans, and they say they're already preparing ships for immediate departure. Admiral, according to their message, they should arrive in 12 standard days. The Admiral stared at the communication display, watching the alien symbols scroll across the screen. Somewhere out there, beings they had never heard were dropping everything to rush to their aid. Either the Confederation was about to be saved by mythical Deathworlders, or they had just invited something dangerous into the heart of their civilization. As she watched the countdown timer marking the anomaly's approach to their core worlds, Admiral Quinn Taylor realized they would soon discover which it would be. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, humanity was mobilizing for war. The initial response to the Confederation's distress call had come from the Earth Defense Force Monitoring Station on Luna. Within minutes of receiving the transmission, every major government on Earth had been alerted. Within hours, the greatest military minds of humanity were analyzing the threat and preparing a response. The choice to help had never been in question. The debate centered entirely on how to help most effectively. We're looking at an entity that dissolves molecular bonds, explained Dr. Sarah Chun, humanity's leading xenobiology expert, during an emergency briefing at the Pentagon. From their description, it sounds like some kind of engineered weapon or possibly a self-replicating nanotechnology plague. The aliens have tried conventional weapons and defensive measures, all of which have proven ineffective. General Marcus Rodriguez studied the holographic display showing the anomaly's path of destruction. What are our options? Can we hit it with nuclear weapons from a safe distance? Potentially, replied Dr. Chun. But we need to consider that this might not be a simple matter of firepower. If the entity can dissolve molecular bonds, our conventional weapons might not be effective either. We need to think outside the box. Admiral Sarah Thompson leaned forward. What about biological warfare? If this thing targets organic matter specifically, maybe we can find a way to turn that against it. Or we could try to understand it better first, suggested Dr. Chun. These aliens have been studying it for weeks. They might have data that could help us identify a weakness. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was preparing to travel across the galaxy to fight an enemy they didn't understand, to save people they had never met, using technology that might not even work against their target. Why are we doing this? Asked Colonel James Mitchell quietly. These aliens aren't our allies. We don't owe them anything. They don't even know we exist. General Rodriguez looked around the room at the assembled officers and scientists. Because that's what humans do, Colonel. When someone calls for help, we answer. When children are in danger, we protect them. When civilizations face extinction, we stand between them and the darkness. That's not just what makes us human. It's what makes us proud to be human. The room erupted into activity as plans began forming. Ships would be loaded with every weapon system humanity could devise. Scientists would work around the clock to develop new technologies that might prove effective against the anomaly. Medical teams would prepare for mass casualty situations. But perhaps most importantly, humanity would bring something the Confederation had never encountered: the experience of surviving on a world that actively tried to kill them every single day. Earth had forged humanity in constant struggle against natural disasters, hostile wildlife, disease, and environmental extremes. Humans had learned to fight not just to win, but to keep fighting when winning seemed impossible. They had learned to adapt, to innovate, and to never give up hope even in the face of certain death. The Galactic Confederation was about to discover what Deathworlders were truly capable of when they decided to protect something they cared about. The countdown to humanity's arrival had begun, and, with it, the first chapter of a new era in galactic history. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Confederation space exactly when they had promised, 12 days after first contact. Admiral Quinn Taylor watched her sensors with growing amazement as the readings came in. What she saw defied everything she thought she knew about starship design. The human vessels were unlike anything in the Confederation databases. Where alien ships were sleek, elegant constructions designed for efficiency and comfort, these human craft looked like they had been built for war. Thick armor plating covered every surface, weapon ports bristled from multiple angles, and the ships themselves seemed to radiate an aggressive energy that made her feel uneasy. "Admiral," reported her sensor operator, "I'm detecting 37 vessels of unknown configuration. The largest appears to be approximately 2 kilometers in length, significantly larger than any of our dreadnoughts. Energy readings are unusual. I'm detecting power signatures that exceed our theoretical maximums for ships of their size." Admiral Quinn Taylor activated her communication array. "Incoming human vessels. This is Admiral Quinn Taylor of the Confederation Fleet. We welcome you to our space and are grateful beyond words for your response to our distress call." The reply came immediately, in perfectly translated Galactic Standard, despite the fact that humans had only known their language existed for 12 days. "Admiral Quinn Taylor, this is Admiral Sarah Thompson of the Earth Defense Force. We've been analyzing your transmissions during our journey here. We understand the situation is critical. Request permission to deploy our ships and begin immediate assessment of the threat." "Permission granted," Admiral Quinn Taylor responded quickly. "We have prepared detailed briefings on everything we've learned about the anomaly. Our scientists are eager to share all available data." "Appreciated, Admiral. However, our immediate priority is establishing protective positions around your remaining populated worlds. We can review the data during deployment. Time is critical." Admiral Quinn Taylor blinked in surprise. The humans wanted to move directly into defensive positions before even learning about the enemy they faced? This was either supreme confidence or dangerous recklessness. Given that these beings had crossed half the galaxy to help complete strangers, she wasn't sure which possibility was more unsettling. "Admiral Thompson, with respect, shouldn't your forces familiarize themselves with the threat before engaging? The anomaly has proven immune to every weapon we've attempted to use against it." A pause on the communication channel was followed by what sounded almost like amusement in Admiral Thompson's voice. "Admiral, humans have a saying. You can't learn to swim without getting in the water. We appreciate your concern, but our doctrine is to establish defensive positions first and adapt our tactics as we gather real-time intelligence. We've brought a variety of weapons systems and defensive technologies. We'll find what works." As Admiral Quinn Taylor watched, the human fleet split into smaller groups with military precision. Each group moved toward a different threatened star system, their ships accelerating to speeds that pushed the limits of what she thought possible for vessels of their size. Within hours, human warships had taken positions around every major population center in the anomaly's projected path. But it was the humans themselves that proved most shocking when the first diplomatic shuttle arrived at the Confederation command station. The shuttle docked with gentle precision, but when the airlock opened, Admiral Quinn Taylor nearly fainted. The being that emerged was massive by Confederation standards, standing almost 2 meters tall with dense muscle and bone structure that suggested incredible physical power. Worse, the humans seemed perfectly comfortable in the standard atmosphere and gravity that most aliens found challenging. "Admiral Quinn Taylor," the human said, extending a hand in what their database indicated was a greeting gesture. "I'm General Marcus Rodriguez, commander of the Human Ground Forces. Thank you for trusting us with your people's safety." Admiral Quinn Taylor cautiously extended one of her tentacles to touch the human's hand, and nearly recoiled at the strength she felt there. This being could probably crush her without effort, yet its touch was gentle and its demeanor calm and professional. "General Rodriguez, we are in your debt simply for coming. But I must ask, are all humans built like you? Your physical structure suggests you evolved in extremely challenging conditions." General Rodriguez smiled, an expression that Admiral Quinn Taylor's database told her indicated friendliness, though the display of teeth was instinctively frightening. "Earth is what you might call a high-gravity death world, Admiral. We evolved dealing with natural disasters, predators, disease, and environmental extremes that would kill most species. It made us tough, but it also taught us to help each other survive. That's why we're here. The briefing that followed was unlike anything in Admiral Quinn Taylor's experience. The humans listened to their data on the anomaly with intense focus, asking questions that revealed a deep understanding of both military tactics and scientific principles. But what impressed her most was their attitude. Where Confederation scientists spoke of the anomaly with fear and desperation, the humans discussed it like a problem to be solved. They showed no panic, no despair, only professional interest in understanding their enemy. So it dissolves molecular bonds in organic matter, mused Dr. Sarah Chun, the human science team leader. Interesting. That suggests either nanotechnology or some kind of engineered enzyme system. Have you tried introducing competing molecular structures? Something that might bind with the dissolution agent. Director Yixnu's skin patterns indicated confusion. We don't understand. Competing molecular structures, like antacids for cosmic indigestion, explained Dr. Chun with what Admiral Quinn Taylor was beginning to recognize as characteristic human directness. If this thing works by breaking down molecular bonds, maybe we can give it something else to break down instead. Something that would neutralize it or at least slow it down. But how can we possibly deliver such a substance? Our ships cannot get close enough to the anomaly without being destroyed. General Rodriguez leaned forward. Actually, Admiral, that's where being Deathworlders gives us an advantage. We brought some unconventional delivery systems. The next few hours revealed the true extent of human military thinking. While the Confederation had focused on large ships with powerful weapons designed to engage enemies at safe distances, humans had developed an entire philosophy around getting close to dangerous situations and solving problems through direct action. They had brought ships designed to operate in hostile environments, vessels that could function even while taking significant damage. They had developed weapons that worked through multiple delivery methods, from conventional projectiles to biological agents, to exotic matter manipulation. Most importantly, they had brought human soldiers willing to take enormous personal risks to protect others. You're suggesting, Admiral Quinn Taylor said slowly, that your people would deliberately fly into the anomaly to deploy these countermeasures? If that's what it takes, confirmed General Rodriguez. We brought volunteer crews specifically trained for high-risk missions. They understand the danger, but they also understand what's at stake. But they could be killed. Certainly killed. Maybe, Dr. Chen nodded, but maybe not. We've developed some theoretical protections based on your data. Electromagnetic shields that might disrupt the dissolution process, hull coatings that could resist molecular breakdown, emergency escape systems. We won't send anyone in without giving them the best possible chance. Admiral Quinn Taylor realized she was seeing something that had never existed in Confederation space. Beings who were willing to risk certain death to save others, not because they were desperate or had no choice, but because they believed it was the right thing to do. There's something else, General Rodriguez continued. We've brought evacuation ships, massive cargo vessels converted for passenger transport. If our primary plan doesn't work, we can evacuate significantly more people than your current ships allow. How many people? Asked Admiral Quinn Taylor. Approximately 50 million per ship, and we brought 20 ships. We can save 1 billion people if necessary, though the conditions won't be comfortable. Humans are used to cramped spaces and difficult conditions. We assumed other species might be able to tolerate them temporarily if it meant survival. The number was staggering. The entire Confederation evacuation fleet could transport perhaps 10 million beings under emergency conditions. The humans had casually brought the capacity to save 100 times more. How is this possible? Admiral Quinn Taylor asked. How did you develop such capabilities so quickly? Dr. Chun and General Rodriguez exchanged glances. Admiral, Dr. Chun said carefully, humans have been preparing for worst-case scenarios for our entire history. Natural disasters, wars, pandemics, asteroid impacts. Earth has thrown everything at us. We've learned to plan for catastrophic failure and to never give up hope even when things seem impossible. We brought multiple backup plans, General Rodriguez added. If conventional weapons don't work, we'll try biological agents. If those fail, we'll attempt to physically disrupt the anomaly structure. If that's impossible, we'll focus on evacuation and finding a new home for your people. We don't accept defeat as long as people can still be saved. Admiral Quinn Taylor felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. These strange, powerful beings from across the galaxy had arrived not just with weapons and ships, but with an unshakable determination to protect innocent life. But her hope was tempered by a growing realization. If humans were willing to take such risks for complete strangers, what were they like when protecting their own people? What kind of species had the Confederation just invited into their space? The answer came sooner than she expected. Long-range sensors detected the anomaly's approach to the outer defense perimeter, where human ships had taken position around the agricultural world of Kepler-7. Admiral Quinn Taylor watched in fascination as the humans implemented their defensive strategy. Rather than maintaining safe distances like Confederation doctrine required, the human ships moved directly toward the approaching anomaly. Their formations were tight, aggressive, designed to concentrate firepower and provide mutual support even under extreme duress. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Thompson," came the transmission. "Remember, our job isn't just to stop this thing. Our job is to protect the people behind us. Every shot counts. Every second we buy gives the evacuation teams more time. Make humanity proud." Admiral Quinn Taylor heard responses from dozens of ship captains, each voice calm and determined despite facing an enemy that had already destroyed 17 worlds. These beings weren't just fearless. They were motivated by something deeper than courage. They were motivated by love. Love for people they had never met, for children they would never know, for civilizations they had only recently discovered existed. As the battle was about to begin, Admiral Quinn Taylor realized that the Confederation hadn't just called for help from Deathworlders. They had called for help from a species that had turned survival into an art form, and compassion into a driving force. The galaxy was about to witness what happened when Earth's children went to war not for conquest or glory, but for the simple, radical belief that every life was worth saving. The first engagement between humanity and the molecular dissolution anomaly began at 0347 Standard Galactic Time, at the edge of the Kepler-7 system. Admiral Quinn Taylor watched from the command center as human ships moved into attack formation, their approach pattern unlike anything in Confederation tactical doctrine. Instead of maintaining maximum distance and hoping their weapons could reach the target, the humans were deliberately closing range. Their ships moved in overlapping groups, each one positioned to cover the others as they advanced directly toward the anomaly. "Admiral Thompson," Admiral Quinn Taylor transmitted urgently, "your ships are moving far too close. The anomaly will begin dissolving your hulls within minutes at that range." The human admiral's response was calm, almost casual. "Acknowledged, Admiral. We're tracking the dissolution field boundaries. We know what we're doing." On her displays, Admiral Quinn Taylor could see the dark cloud of the anomaly approaching the human perimeter. It looked innocuous enough from a distance, just a patch of slightly distorted space drifting between the stars. But she knew that within that cloud, molecular bonds simply ceased to exist. Any organic matter that entered would be reduced to component atoms within seconds. The lead human ship, a massive dreadnought called the UES Defiance, reached weapon range first. Instead of the elegant energy beams favored by Confederation vessels, the human ship unleashed a devastating barrage of projectile weapons, missiles, and exotic energy discharges that lit up space like an artificial star. "Direct hits confirmed," reported the human weapons officer. "No visible effect on the anomaly's structure or movement." "Copy that," Admiral Thompson replied without any sign of concern. Switching to experimental countermeasures. "Chin, you're up." Dr. Sarah Chin's voice came over the communication channel. "Deploying molecular stabilization charges. These should create competing bond structures that might disrupt the dissolution process." Admiral Quinn Taylor watched as dozens of small objects separated from the human ships and flew directly into the anomaly. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. Then, the dark cloud flickered, its edges becoming less defined. Partial success, Dr. Chen reported. The anomaly's dissolution rate has decreased by approximately 30% in the areas where our charges made contact. But the effect appears temporary. How long? Admiral Thompson asked. Best estimate, 12 minutes before the anomaly adapts and returns to full efficiency. Then, we have 12 minutes to try something else. Rodriguez, deploy the bioagents. Admiral Quinn Taylor watched in amazement as the humans implemented plan after plan with calm efficiency. When biological countermeasures failed to stop the anomaly, they tried electromagnetic pulse weapons. When those proved ineffective, they deployed swarms of self-replicating nanobots designed to interfere with the anomaly's function at the molecular level. Each attempt provided valuable data, and each failure led immediately to the next experimental approach. The humans seemed to have an endless supply of creative solutions, as if they had prepared for every possible scenario. But the anomaly continued its approach toward Kepler-7. Admiral Thompson, Admiral Quinn Taylor transmitted, the anomaly has reached the inner system. Evacuation ships are standing by, but they need more time to complete the rescue operations. Understood. All ships, prepare for close contact engagement. We're going to physically interpose ourselves between the anomaly and the planet. Admiral Quinn Taylor felt her breathing apparatus fail for a moment. Admiral Thompson, you cannot be serious. Your ships will be destroyed if they make direct contact with the anomaly. Maybe, came the calm reply. But every minute we hold it back gives your evacuation ships more time to save lives. That's what we came here to do. What happened next will be talked about in Confederation space for generations. The human fleet, rather than retreating in the face of an unstoppable force, moved into a defensive formation directly between the anomaly and the planet. Their ships formed a barrier of steel and determination, weapons firing constantly to slow the anomaly's progress, even as its dissolution field began to affect their outer hulls. The UES Defiance took the worst of it, positioning itself directly in the anomaly's path. Admiral Quinn Taylor watched in horror as the massive ship's armor plating began to dissolve, layers of metal simply ceasing to exist as the anomaly enveloped the vessel's front sections. Defiance, report your status, Admiral Thompson transmitted. Captain Maria Santos of the Defiance responded with a voice that remained steady despite her ship being eaten alive around her. Forward sections lost, Admiral. We're down to emergency power and skeleton crew. But we're still here, and we're still fighting. Can you maintain position? As long as you need us to, Admiral. Admiral Quinn Taylor realized she was witnessing something impossible. Beings who continued to fight even while facing certain death. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. The captain of the Defiance could have ordered her ship to retreat, could have saved her crew's lives by withdrawing. Instead, she held position because people on the planet below needed those extra minutes to escape. Evacuation status report, Admiral Thompson requested. 73% complete, came the reply from the surface. Estimate 18 more minutes for full evacuation. You've got it, Admiral Thompson responded. All ships, prepare for sustained defensive action. Whatever happens, that anomaly does not reach the surface until every last civilian is clear. The battle that followed redefined what Admiral Quinn Taylor thought possible. Human ships continued fighting even as the anomaly dissolved entire sections of their vessels. Crews transferred to undamaged ships when their own became uninhabitable, then returned to their posts on vessels that were little more than floating weapons platforms held together by emergency force fields. But it was the rescue operations that truly amazed her. Even as their warships fought a losing battle against an unstoppable force, human evacuation vessels worked with incredible efficiency to save every possible life from the planet below. They had coordinated with local authorities, organized transport schedules, and even brought supplies to make the evacuation ships more comfortable for alien physiologies they had never encountered before. Admiral Quinn Taylor transmitted Dr. Chun from her science vessel, which was maintaining position dangerously close to the anomaly. We're getting some interesting readings. The anomaly seems to be learning from our attacks, adapting its molecular structure to resist our countermeasures. But that adaptation is also making it more complex, more unstable. What does that mean, Doctor? It means maybe we can't destroy it conventionally, but we might be able to make it destroy itself. If we can force it to adapt to enough different threats simultaneously, its molecular structure might collapse under the strain. Admiral Thompson's voice cut through the communication channel. What do you need, Chun? Every ship needs to hit it with a different type of energy signature at exactly the same moment. Different frequencies, different particle types, different molecular disruption patterns. Force it to try to adapt to everything at once. Can it work? Honestly, I have no idea, but it's the best shot we have. Admiral Quinn Taylor watched as the human fleet, reduced now to barely half its original strength, coordinated the most complex weapons discharge she had ever seen. Ships that should have been evacuating their dying crews instead poured every remaining bit of power into weapon systems, each vessel calibrated to produce a unique energy signature. All ships synchronized firing in 10 seconds, Admiral Thompson announced. Whatever happens, it's been an honor serving with you. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone who needs protecting. The coordinated discharge lit up the space around Kepler, 7 like a miniature star going nova. Every human ship fired simultaneously, their combined weapons creating an interference pattern of unprecedented complexity as energy beams of dozens of different types converged on the anomaly. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the anomaly began to fluctuate, its dark outline becoming unstable as its molecular structure tried to adapt to too many different threats at once. The fluctuations became more violent, spreading throughout the cloud's entire mass. "It's working," Dr. Chen reported, excitement breaking through her professional calm. The anomaly's attempting to adapt to contradictory requirements. Its molecular matrix is becoming increasingly unstable. Admiral Quinn Taylor held her breath as the anomaly continued to convulse. Then, in a flash of brilliant light that briefly outshone the system star, the entire cloud simply collapsed in on itself and disappeared. The space around Kepler 7 was suddenly clear, empty except for the battered remains of the human fleet and the evacuation ships rising from the planet's surface. "Threat neutralized," Admiral Thompson reported, her voice betraying the exhaustion of someone who had pushed herself and her people to their absolute limits. "All civilian populations confirmed safe, requesting medical assistance for surviving crew members." Admiral Quinn Taylor realized she was crying, though she hadn't known her species was capable of such a response to overwhelming relief. "Admiral Thompson, your losses were worth it." Admiral Thompson cut her off gently. "Every life we saved was worth it. That's what we came here to do." The aftermath of the Battle of Kepler 7 revealed the true cost of humanity's intervention. 12 human ships had been completely lost, with 8 more damaged beyond repair. Over 3,000 human personnel had given their lives to save a world full of people they had never met. But they had done more than save Kepler 7. The weapon configuration that had destroyed the anomaly could be replicated, distributed to other threatened systems. The crisis that had seemed to spell certain doom for the Confederation was over. As rescue ships moved to collect survivors from the human fleet, Admiral Quinn Taylor found herself trying to understand what she had witnessed. These beings had traveled across the galaxy, risked everything they had, and lost thousands of their own people to save strangers. They had never asked for payment, never demanded concessions, never even requested formal thanks. They had simply done what they believed was right. But, perhaps most remarkably, even after such devastating losses, the human survivors were already volunteering to help with reconstruction efforts, offering medical aid to injured aliens, sharing their advanced technology to help improve Confederation defenses. "Admiral Thompson," Admiral Quinn Taylor transmitted privately, "I must ask why? Why did your people sacrifice so much for us?" The human admiral was quiet for a long moment. When she finally responded. Her words would be remembered throughout Confederation history. Admiral, there are two types of species in the galaxy. Those who believe the universe is a cold, hostile place where only the strong survive. And those who believe the universe is what we make it, and that someone has to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Humans chose long ago which type of species we wanted to be. As Admiral Quinn Taylor watched the human ships beginning their long journey home, she realized that first contact had changed more than just humanity's relationship with the galaxy. It had changed what she believed possible for any intelligent species. The humans had shown them that evolution on a death world didn't just create physical strength. It created moral strength, the will to fight not for conquest, but for protection, the courage to sacrifice not for personal gain, but for the welfare of others. But even as she celebrated their victory, Admiral Quinn Taylor couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders yet unknown. And now the Confederation knew they had allies who would answer the call for help, no matter how far they had to travel or what they had to sacrifice. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy, not with conquest or demands, but with the simple, revolutionary message that some things were worth fighting for, and some people were worth saving. The age of the Deathworlders had begun.